on paper, it's indefensible. Investigative work is indefensible economically. The only reason to do it is because you actually believe that there is a purpose.
So Rob, you've been an investigative reporter since, around 2000. I mean, I think of the Walkerton E. coli crisis at that time. 26 years since then. How has the landscape changed?
It's gotten tougher. It's very tough to do this work today, and way different. Back then, it was there was more money for it. There was a greater commitment to it. There was more money generally in media, and investigative work is tough because it's expensive. It takes a long time. It's legally fraught. Accountants don't like it at news organizations because they think, why are we paying somebody to spend 3 weeks or 3 months or a year on a project, right? When we can have them go out and go to press conferences and file daily news stories. And so, like, on paper, it's indefensible. Investigative work is indefensible economically. The only reason to do it is because you actually believe that there is a purpose.
So what is the purpose, Rob?
Well, to enlighten and inform, to ensure that we as citizens in a democracy have all the information required to allow us to make choices that are in the public interest, right? So it's ultimately to serve the public interest in a way that few other endeavors in life can do. I've come to believe this. Journalism is a very distinct area where we can actually change the world. We can change minds with powerful journalistic work. And when you change minds, it has this cascading effect, right? You see it, you can watch it in front of you. But when we do it well enough, you can see it impact the conversation and the thinking. And that leads to more ideas. And this marketplace of ideas start to fill up. And ultimately, the best ideas start to bubble up. And we do things like impact public policy changes or laws or get people arrested that should be arrested. That's a remarkable privilege and power. And, it's largely dying off.
When you started your career, I'm sure the newspapers were like this thick.
Yeah.
They've shrunk a little bit.
Yeah.
So I assume there's not a lot of space for investigative work or money?
Space and money are tough, yeah. So we publish with Post Media, and they have been remarkably gracious. They give us space, which is very rare today. There's word limit restrictions at most papers that are microscopic. So when you dig deep and you've got a really powerful story with a real compelling narrative, it takes some words to tell those stories. It takes some real estate in the newspaper to tell those stories. And so we've been very fortunate with our partners. They give us the kind of space that we need to do it. We also publish online, so that allows us to sort of ignore the
create your own space.
Yeah. So we can write longer online. There's no question. I remember the Sunday paper was a brick. It would land on the porch, you'd hear it. Now it's a feather.
So what's at stake then, Rob, when there's less resources to go around, when there's fewer watchdogs out there?
It means in the morning when you get up as a journalist, you are not allowed or not given the resources to dig deeply enough to ask the difficult questions that are ultimately going to raise the level of awareness. You're going to file stories, for sure. There's no question. And then those stories are going to be valuable and they'll inspire public debate. But investigative journalists sort of come into the picture where the daily news story ends, right? So the daily news story will tell you about an anecdote that happened today. A pedestrian got hit at this particular street corner. The mayor said this about that. The prime minister did this about that. And it's filed. You're filed at 5 o'clock. It's in the paper, and it's part of the daily discussion. But it doesn't answer the why and how. Those are the two really difficult questions. The 5 W's, we can get those done by 5 o'clock. But the why and the how, that takes a lot more time and effort.
Do you think the gaps when it comes to funding, when it comes to resources, leads to misinformation?
There's no question about it. It's everywhere. We see it all day. We all have that experience where we're literally being fed a pipeline of misinformation and disinformation.
You built an investigative team to fight back against some of that. Tell me about the IJB.
The IJB is a miracle. It's a miracle. We're a team of about a dozen people. We've grown. It's pretty special. So it's a nonprofit. It is an act of daily belief in the highest form of the work that we do in journalism. We sit around together, we brainstorm ideas, we try and figure out what is the most important story that we can tell that no one else is telling, and we get to business. And it is a team of people who view this work not as a job. Nobody's there because it's a job. Mm-hmm. We work way beyond what is reasonable for the amount of money that we get paid. Everyone there believes that what we're doing is special and that we're actually, and we see it, effectively impacting the public's awareness and impacting the public interest. We recently did a big series on the use of dogs in scientific testing that has triggered proposed legislation in Ontario that would effectively ban the use of dogs and cats in scientific research unless it met specific criteria. We learned that there's very lax regulations around this in Canada. We have no real federal teeth, no federal regulatory oversight of this. And of course, it can lead to tremendous abuses.
I think people are wondering, if there's so much importance and we believe in investigative journalism, I mean, how do you keep the lights on?
I have no idea. I don't know. It's a lot of duct tape. We're piecing it together as we go.
But it's a new model.
It's a totally new model.
Right?
Yeah, so we're inventing a model, and that's hard to do.
And what does that look like?
Well, it's a combination of philanthropic. So we are based at the University of Toronto. So we're a nonprofit, we're charity effectively because we're at U of T. So we try and raise money philanthropically. We have a couple of people helping us with that, and we've done okay. We've kept the lights on. And then we also have publishing partnerships. So for a long time, it was the Toronto Star. As of May last year, it's the Post Media chain. So we publish in partnership. They own newspapers across the country. So our work now ends up in the big daily papers across Canada, Montreal Gazette, Ottawa Citizen, Vancouver Sun, Halifax Chronicle, Herald.
A lot of collaborations. And with TVO.
And
right?
with TVO. We work with TVO quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and is that the future in your mind? Because
100%.
And you think that's scalable for other teams?
100%.
Why?
Historically, if you worked for the Toronto Star, you hated the Globe and Mail and the CBC. Sure. And your job was ultimately every day to get up and beat the other guys.
For sure.
And what we've ended up with in light of these kind of economic restrictions is the fact that we just can't do that anymore. There's just not enough of us to do it.
Yeah, we have some examples, like the Fifth Estate still runs Marketplace, things like that, but it's not sustainable for everybody.
No. And those are what you just cited are both CBC,
right?
Which
publicly
are
funded.
Publicly funded, right? So what I eventually figured out, and believe me, I was a lone wolf. I was one of those guys. I was like covetous of everything I got. I kept my stuff to myself. I worked alone. And then I finally figured out that this isn't actually serving the best interests of the story or the public interest. And I became obsessed with trying to figure out if there's a way to make this collaborative model work. So that means working between outlets. So I started working with other outlets. I started building the IJB because I was teaching journalism, and we had these students doing this remarkable work that wouldn't go anywhere. Why wouldn't it go anywhere? Because there was just no mechanism to get it from the classroom into the newsroom. So I started building that. And then so now we have this remarkable mix of students and senior journalists and researchers and academics. And then I figured, university is a good place to actually house this, because what do universities do? They seek knowledge.
Right.
They have researchers. They have very high level of research etiquette and protocols. So that's kind of what journalists do. And so why don't we break down that traditional wall between journalism and academia and bring them into our stories, not just as sound bites, but actual participants from day one.
Partners.
Charting out the story together. And it just became magical. Like the journalism got so much better than anything I could do sitting at my desk by myself with my little pile of papers. And I just became utterly convinced that this is the way to do it.
Rob, you've got a lot of students working for you. How do you ensure quality? Because, the traditional model is you work your way up to investigative. Some of these people are coming right out the gate of school.
Yeah. I just think that that's nonsense, because I taught for 25 years, and there were young journalists coming out of those investigative journalism classes that were top-notch. I'd put them up against anybody sitting in the newsroom downtown. And they were wired for it. I truly believe that investigative is different. It requires a different mindset, a different wiring. It requires some defect in your DNA to pursue it. But those people that have it, they just have it. And it feels ridiculous to sort of say to them, you're going to have to go do this other thing for 10 years before you can come back and do this. And so one of the great benefits and joys of the Investigative Journalism Bureau is it's actually created a place where that very small number of people who want to do this work desperately and are equipped to do it intellectually can come, like as young journalists, and they can sit around some of the most senior people in the business in Canada and amongst their colleagues, and we all, like, it's a very level playing field.
Yeah, and full disclosure, you know, our episode producer worked under you as one of those students. Charlie Buckley, and he's, you know, one of the best members of our team. So
You're
I think
welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for the training, right? Thank you for the training. But you know, you see it.
Yeah.
You see it in the work, and so I commend you. I mean, your team, it's working, and so
Thanks.
the model works. Keep it going, and let's see if other people can replicate.
Thanks so much.
Great to have you on the program today.
Good to be here.